Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Boots on the Ground. Tonight's class is turning Project 2025 into Project 2026 Success, Defeat. All right, we are going to beat back the things, the tyranny and oppression that has taken over our country, and we're going to learn about that tonight. Before we get into the class, I have good news. I got back from International Mr. Leather and Boot Black last week, and we have raised enough money through the sale of friendship pins. If you're interested in one, write me at bootsonthegroundfl@gmail.com and I'll get you a pin. They're $10 in person, $15 to be shipped. I'd be happy to sell them to you because we're using that money towards starting Boots on the Ground as a political action committee or a PAC. So we'll be able to fundraise and support political races in the states where we have chapters. So if you are interested in starting a chapter and getting in on this, please reach out to me. My name is Karen. All right, so next slide, please, Dan. Let's start with our mission statement. Boots on the Ground was created to bring all members of the leather, fetish, and kink communities together to fight against the tyranny and oppression taking over the United States. We will fight so that our inalienable rights given to us by the U.S. Constitution are protected. We will educate ourselves to know how our democracy works. We will make calls, attend commission meetings, protest, march, create connection, and build community. Democracy will not die while we watch. We will fight and we will win. Next slide, please. I like to do a land acknowledgement because I feel it is important to recognize that we all reside on stolen land. Boots on the Ground recognizes that we reside on lands once inhabited and held sacred by the first peoples. For nearly 10,000 years, indigenous groups lived in South Florida. The Tequesta, Miccosukee, Seminole, Muskogee, and Taino peoples once lived in what we call Broward County. These distinct indigenous communities were among many others in South Florida considered ancestors of the present-day federally recognized Seminole Tribe of Florida and Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida. I encourage all to learn about the significance of the early inhabitants. With a collective knowledge of the past, we are inspired to teach, live, and support a future that empowers all individuals. Next slide, please. Now, if you haven't signed up already, this slide has a QR code for our Lace Up and Learn weekly newsletter. What I do is I read the news of the week. Then I digest it into small paragraphs about the important news items, mostly around politics, sometimes around some environmental concerns, because that's an interest of mine as well, and other times about reproductive freedoms. It is a good way to stay informed without staying tied to the 24/7 news cycle. So if you go to botgfl.com and click on newsletters, you'll be able to sign up right there. They go out Sunday morning. So please feel free to opt out of the news cycle but still be informed. Next slide. All right, I would like to give a huge shout out of thanks. Will couldn't be here today, but Sylvia's here at the Eagle videoing for Zoom. Thank you to Dan, who is running the Zoom for us. I'd like to thank Allie, who does my graphics, Big John for hosting our website, and of course, Chuck and Greg at the Eagle Wilton Manors for allowing us the space to have these classes. It takes a village, and I am glad we have one here at Boots on the Ground. So, let's get into the class. Today, we are diving deep into Project 2025. It is an over 900-page mandate for leadership blueprint. It was put out by the Heritage Foundation and about 100 other conservative groups that wanted to be prepared for a potential conservative administration, which is what we have right now under Trump 2.0. It outlines policy changes, personal vetting for loyalists, rapid executive actions aimed at reshaping the federal government. They're about restoring the family, their definition of cisgender, white, heterosexual family, as the centerpiece, dismantling what they call the administrative state. That just means the programs like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP benefits that benefit those among us who need it. Securing borders and promoting anti-LGBTQ plus rights interpretations. So they want to roll back protections for all marginalized communities. And if you're not cisgender, white, and male, you're out of luck because the Heritage Foundation doesn't feel you deserve the right to exist. Critics see it as a plan for concentrated executive power, which is what they have been trying to do, get the president's position to have as much power as possible. Rollback of regulations, social policy shifts, and replacement of career civil servants with political appointees. And we're going to get into all that tonight. Through our progressive lens, many of these proposals threaten protections for workers, the environment, reproductive rights, education equity, and checks on executive power. We are going to go over probably the 10 most concerning parts of Project 2025, how we can fight them, and how we can use this to our advantage in the coming midterms in November of 2026. The reason I'm giving this class is I want people to understand the damage that has been done to our government by Trump and his regime. It is not something that is forever. We can roll back these horrible things he has done to our government systems and structures. But we got to know what's going on in order to do that. All right, next slide, please. Oh, that's the introduction. So pass that one, Dan. Next slide. All right, the first one, politicizing the civil service. Now, the government, most of the people in the government are nonpartisan. That means they're not Republican, they're not Democrat, they serve the government. Well, Trump wants to make being a civil servant, somebody who serves the government, a loyalty test. So the proposal was to expand presidential control over independent agencies like the DOJ, hello and goodbye Pam Bondi, the FBI, hello and hopefully goodbye Kash Patel, the FTC, all of the other, the FCC, all of those organizations that we absolutely hear in the news all the time now because they have been politicized. And he wanted to, and he did reclassify policy influencing civil servants for easier firing. That's why you saw a swath of people being fired. He reclassified them so they could be fired. And he installed vetted loyalists via a personnel database that was conveniently left to Project 2025 and Trump's own friends and family members, let's be honest. So the concern, of course, is that people with no institutional knowledge, but who are loyal to the regime, it risks turning that nonpartisan expertise into a political tool, and it undermines the rule of law and accountability. So what's going on is that the people that are in these positions, I mean, Bill Pulte was just, who was a house developer, was just nominated for the head of the DNI. I mean, that is ridiculous. He has no experience in national intelligence. He is a crony of Trump's, and they're trying to get this man into the head of the DNI. Tulsi Gabbard, who left, wasn't any better, but come on. Now, the impacts, it weaponizes justice. We have seen Trump go on his revenge tour and try to intimidate legally all of his enemies. We have seen it with Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman. We've seen it with Lisa Cook, who's also on the Fed. We have seen it with multiple other enemies that all of a sudden have a DOJ investigation because Trump wanted it. He told his people to find dirt. So we also have weakened expertise on everything from disasters like FEMA to regulation. We are at a point where the guardrails that are put in place by the government to keep people safe are no longer there, and run by a loyalist to a regime rather than to the U.S. Constitution. That's a scary thing. We need to take control back. So how do we do this? We demand Congress protect civil service laws and all those people that he fired. A lot of them are coming back because he illegally fired them. Support lawsuits on separation of powers. And you can also do it from state and local resistance, because a lot of these people that serve in these positions are in your local community. The government's just not in Washington, D.C., it's throughout the country. How we can take action. You can join or form watchdog groups that monitor political appointments. That's how I know about Pulte being nominated for DNI chair, is that I follow those kind of things. Follow, lace up and learn, get the newsletter, and you too can follow it. You can call your representatives and tell them no loyalty oaths, expertise over fealty. All right, next slide. All right. Dismantling the Department of Education. This is a big one. They want to eliminate, and they almost have, it's on its last legs, eliminate the Department of Education, shift to states' school choice vouchers, and they want to cut the federal role. So the concerns, it threatens Title I funding, which funds a variety of programs, especially special education programs and programs for lower income students. It also threatens civil rights enforcement in schools, because states don't monitor civil rights in schools. The federal government does. That was one of the jobs of the Department of Education, is to make sure that we did not have this separate but equal school system anymore. So with the Department of Education gutted, we don't have those protections in place. The impacts, it widens inequality. State vouchers for schools, all it does is give rich people the option of where to go send their kids to school. And what does is it ghettoizes school districts, and then the poorest people are getting the worst of the schools. State vouchers are a horrible idea for equality. This is especially true for low income, rural, disabled, and minority students. And there is a lot of rollback of equity programs. I mean, the Palm Beach County School Board, I live in Palm Beach County, they were going to get rid of their DEI policy. And I went twice to speak, and they waited till hardly anybody was there, and then they got rid of the DEI policy. It's happening in school boards in your own backyard. Pay attention, get involved, go speak at your school board and tell them, don't cut DEI. We can fight it by mobilizing parents. I mean, parents of kids who have IEPs or individual education programs, they are going to be the hardest hit because those are from federal funding, not state funding. Teachers, mobilize teachers through their unions and attend school board meetings and make your voice heard. Now the actions. We can defend and expand public education at the state level. And we're going to have to if we're not getting federal funding. You can run for school board. If you want to get involved, school board is an easy way to jump into the political arena. Public schools for all, not vouchers for some. Next slide. All right, this one I have a feeling everybody is going to be familiar with. Mass deportations and immigration enforcement, ICE. The proposal was large-scale removals, border security expansion, and certain legal protections for immigrants and target communities. That sounds like, that right there is from Project 2025. That right there is the playbook of ICE. And it comes straight from Project 2025, which is why we're talking about this. This is one of the things we want to roll back. So the concern, it's a humanitarian crisis. People are being kidnapped off the streets, ripped away from their families, deported to countries they have no ties to. It is horrible. And they're being held in prison camps that are for profit that I wouldn't even keep a dog in. I mean, they are horrible. Family separations. We are seeing families ripped apart. Economic disruption. Who do you think picks our fruits and vegetables? It's not Americans, it's immigrants. They do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. So agriculture, construction, care services, in the hotel industry, maids, busboys, dishwashers, all of these jobs that are beneath regular Americans, immigrants do. So we are seeing massive disruptions to the labor pool because of it. The impacts, it sowed fear in our communities. Our communities are under attack. It's been quiet lately because after Minneapolis, the regime said, hey, cool it for a while. But the deportations are still going on. They're just being more subtle about it. Labor shortages, like I mentioned, and strained local resources. Because when you have a majority or a population that just stops going to work or stops showing up to the grocery store, you are going to have strained local resources. How we fight it, Know Your Rights campaigns. The ACLU puts out this little red card. It's your Know Your Rights card for if you're stopped by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. If you can, get some, hand them out to immigrant friends, family, and even if they're not, so that they can educate others. Each one teach one. Sanctuary policies. Sanctuary cities are great resources for the immigrant community because they have said we will not support ICE and immigration enforcement in our cities. And legal aid networks, mutual aid networks. When shit went down in Minneapolis, the mutual aid networks just took everybody in. They started feeding immigrants and letting them stay home. They would buy out whole taco stands of food so they did not have to work. They came to their neighbors' help. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a horrible that it had to happen, but it was a beautiful thing. Action. How you can get involved. Support immigrant defense funds. I know the ACLU does it. There are also a lot of grassroots ones. Find one in your community to support. voter drives in affected communities, because remember, they're deporting American citizens. They aren't stopping. If you're an immigrant, you have a chance to be deported. And I'm so worried about people that have green cards, because if your skin is not white, you are a target, and that is a scary thing. Protest and document abuses. One of the reasons ICE has been so denigrated in public is because people are recording. So if you find yourself in an action, record, post. Make those posts go viral. We need to get more people saying, what the fuck is going on? These atrocities cannot stand. And the way we can do that in this day and age is through social media. Your voice has power. Use it. No human is illegal, and families belong together. Next slide, please, Dan. Abortion and reproductive rights rollback, the Comstock Act. The proposal was to enforce the Comstock Act to restrict medication and abortion materials, limit access broadly, and overturn Roe v. Wade with Dobbs happened. So, the concern, national level restriction post-Dobbs. States like Florida has a 6-week abortion ban. Most women don't even know they're pregnant by 6 weeks. And you only have 6 weeks to get an abortion in the state of Florida. Women have to fly out of state to get abortion care. That shouldn't be in 2026. And it endangers lives and privacy. Women have been dying because they could not access abortion care. This is horrible. And guess what? It disproportionately affects Black women because of the institutionalized racism of our medical care system. The impact is that higher maternal mortality, especially in marginalized groups, and chilled access to health care. People are afraid. They're thinking, with all the words and the news and everything around abortion, people are thinking, I can't get an abortion. They can, it's just limited. So there's that fear that is instilled. How we fight it, state ballot measures. Florida had a repeal of the 6-week abortion ban on our ballot last year, or a year and a half ago. And it failed to pass with the majority it needed because our governor illegally funded money into programs that were social media and media blasting out against the amendment. So it failed to pass. But state ballot measures, that's why we have safe states to get an abortion, and we have red states to get an abortion, or can't get an abortion. Medication access networks. This is another kind of mutual aid so that people can get access to the medical abortion materials that they need. And elect pro-choice officials. It's pretty simple, people. This all comes down to voting. All of these things. Vote for those people who are going to make your life better and turn around these harmful parts of Project 2025. How you can take action. Volunteer with reproductive rights and justice organizations. Call your reps and your senators. I can't say this enough. Call them. Leave your message. You don't have to talk to a real person. It takes less than 5 minutes. Call. Use the 5 calls app and call them, please. My body, my choice. Hands off healthcare. Tell your rep that. Next slide. All right, gutting environmental protections and climate action. The proposal is to streamline energy production. What that meant is reliance on fossil fuels. Weaken NEPA, and NEPA stands for the National Environmental Policy Act, which is a U.S. environmental law that requires federal agencies to evaluate the environmental impacts of their proposed actions before making decisions. So NEPA basically says, hey, you got to think of the environment before you sign that contract or build that destroyer or whatever it is. And they have weakened it. Eliminate the social cost of carbon and reshape climate research. So those are the goals. And the reason is that these conservative think tanks and organizations, they are funded by fossil fuel oil companies, you know, and natural gas companies and coal companies and things like this. So of course they're going to want to do everything for their backers. So we're going to get rid of environmental constraints so that these people can continue to pollute our earth even more. The concern, it accelerates the climate crisis. And you also get pollution in vulnerable communities because the people that have the least money, the least political power, guess what? They're the most likely to get exploited for environmental oversight. And they're going to live in communities that get polluted because of that. Look at Detroit and their water situation. The impacts, extreme weather costs. I live in Florida. Hello, hurricanes. Health harms and lost green jobs because the federal government, hold on one sec. The federal government is usually a forerunner in getting things going. Getting green jobs on the books, going to EV cars, you know, things like that. That's usually the role of the government because once the government starts, everybody follows. But because we are avoiding changes that would be good for the environment, we are not getting on the bandwagon and getting all these green jobs up and running. So we are going to lose a generation or half a generation of people going into these sustainable development fields because of Trump and because of Project 2025. How we can fight it. State attorney general lawsuits. The Democratic states attorney general, I believe there are 35 of them, they have been banding together to fight the Trump regime on a lot of different issues, but especially in environmental protections. The United Nations just voted that climate change is a legal duty. It is not a political preference. So the United Nations is, and of course the United States voted against this with like 7 other countries. And it was like Russia and Libya and, you know, these countries that don't hardly, except for Russia, don't hardly do anything, but they want to protect their oil oligarchs, you know? So, how we can take action. Join climate strikes. Push Green New Deal style policies locally. Again, when the federal government's failing us, go to your state, your county, your city governments and push these policies. Because if the federal government's not going to do it, doesn't mean we can't do it in our own backyard. There's no law that says we can't. In fact, one of the things I've been noticing, a lot of cities are changing over to electric vehicles for their fleet cars. You know, you see trucks and cars for cities on the road all the time. Code enforcement, building department, public works. They're trading them. They're upgrading to electric vehicles. And I see that happening in cities. That is not a federal thing. That is happening at the city level. Support that or bring it to your city and say, hey, let's do this. You know? Climate justice now, no drilling our future. Next slide. All right. Attacks on labor rights and worker protections. The proposal is to make union organizing and decertification harder, cut overtime rules so they don't have to pay you for overtime, weaken the National Labor Relations Board, which oversees unionization and the ability of unions to strike and get workers' rights heard at a corporate level. The concern is that this shifts powers back to employers. They had it for a long time, and then Roosevelt did the New Deal, and we had all these labor relation board, we had Medicare, Medicaid, we had Social Security, we had all these programs, and the workers got the rights again. You know, they were finally able to live a better life and not be totally monopolized and abused by the corporations for who they worked. It also reverses recent gains we have made to labor rights. I highly believe in unions. In fact, there was a hospital, I can't remember the name, that they just had 70,000 nurses unionized. And they were $1 billion, like $11 billion this hospital chain made. But they were treating their workers like shit. So the nurses unionized. Good for them. Now, the impacts, lower wages. Unions raise wages for everybody, not just the people in the union. Unsafe conditions. Worker protections at the federal level makes it safer for you and me to go to work every day. And this is especially true for low-wage workers because, again, you don't have the money, you don't have the political power, you're going to get screwed. So the federal government should be there to make sure the weakest among us don't get screwed. How we fight it, union drives, unionize, unionize, unionize. And pro-worker legislation. How we can take action, solidarity strikes. I don't know if anybody knows, but May Day was a national strike day. No shopping, no work. If you had to buy something, you bought local only. And it was a national day of striking in support of all of the causes we've been talking about, but especially for workers' rights and workers' protections. Elect labor champions. Again, elect politicians that align with things you believe in. Workers of the world, unite, organize, and rise. Next slide. All right. Hold on. Oh, I skipped a slide. Hold on. I did. Oh, no, we should be on 7 cuts to the social safety net, Dan. Sorry. I was confused. Alrighty. Cuts to the social safety net. Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, and Head Start. The proposal was repeal drug price caps. Why? Why? To protect Big Pharma. Cut programs, block grants, and limit access. Last year, he called it the one big beautiful bill. It was the one big ugly bill. It cut $1.1 trillion from these social safety net programs. Think about that. And you know why they cut them? They cut them so that the Epstein class could get another tax cut. That's why they took your money, so that the rich people could get richer. The concern, it harms seniors, children, poor families. And the impacts, it increases poverty, hunger, and medical debt, obviously. Because if we don't have these social safety nets in place and you're going to get sick, you need to go to the hospital, your medical debt's going to increase, or you're not going to go and you're going to live with chronic health conditions. How we fight it. Defend and expand the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, at the federal and the state level. We can, as an action, we can have town halls with affected families, mutual aid networks that can help. Again, mutual aid is one of those great things if it's in your community. If not, you can start it. Healthcare and food are rights, not privileges. All right, next slide. There we go. Elimination. Hold on. Okay. Can somebody mute? Are we good? Good. All right. Elimination of DEI and equity programs and social policy shifts. The proposal dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion, remove terms related to gender, equity, abortion from rules, prosecute anti-white racism, and traditional family focus. So basically, this is the one where if you're not cisgender, if you're not white, and you're not a male, you're fucked. We don't want you. You don't deserve rights. You are less than human because we say your life is worth less than a white person's. That is what this is. The concerns, it rolls back civil rights advancements. We have seen the Supreme Court gut the Voting Rights Act of 1964. As soon as they did that, all the southern states raced to gerrymander their voting maps to eliminate black majority districts. This is happening in real time. And it started with cutting DEI. It harms the LGBTQ plus community and minority community. It impacts by increasing discrimination, and it erased data for tracking inequities. You know, DEI programs do more than just enforce it. They track the advances made by people of color, BIPOC people, and other minorities, and the government keeps track of all that data. Well, with the elimination of these programs, all that data is not getting collected. So we know things are going to get worse, but we have no data because the government has said, no, we're not going to collect it anymore. All right. Next, how we fight it. This is one time where you're going to hear me say corporations can do the most. You remember when Target got targeted, about a year and a half ago because they rolled back their DEI and their sales dropped every quarter for 5 progressive quarters? Their CEO had to step down. He resigned, they say, but I think he was forced. And it was all because they became Trumpian and they rolled back their DEI. DEI and corporations matter because even if the federal government doesn't do it, the corporation can. So support DEI in corporations. The Human Rights Council campaign has for LGBTQ plus community, they have a corporate watch where they say their index on the way they treat the LGBTQ community. It's a great thing to see the kind of corporations you're dealing with. You can also involve inclusive curricula in schools so that we don't just have cisgender white narratives being fed to our students. Action. Pride and racial justice marches. boycotts over anti-DEI policies like Target. Diversity is our strength. Equality for all. Next slide. Yes.
The gentleman came off mute again.
Okay, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. All right, next, we're on number 9, changes to healthcare and FDA regulatory rollbacks. The proposal would weaken drug negotiations again for big pharma to profit and shift regulations towards deregulation, where we're not as careful with our food and drug supply anymore. We don't need to regulate them that much. They'll regulate themselves. That's always the argument. The concern is it's going to lead to higher costs. You can't negotiate drug prices, and reduced oversight. So we are going to have more outbreaks of salmonella. We're going to have more problems with our food and our drug supply because the companies cannot be trusted to regulate themselves. That is the job for the federal government. But Project 2025 said, no, let's get rid of these. Let's weaken this. They don't need it. Well, no, they want to make more profits. The way to be more profitable is cutting safety corners. How we fight it: support expanded options through the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And the action: be an advocate for yourself as a patient. Pressure insurers and big pharma. I mean, it's an uphill battle, I'm not going to lie. But putting those pressures on drug companies and calling them out, and if it goes viral and takes over, it can affect them. So it is one way to fight this. All right, next slide. Centralizing executive power and reducing checks and balances. This is a broader administrative state dismantling that they want to do. So the proposal is to weaken independent agencies, which they've done, limit judicial review in some areas, which they've done, rapid executive order playbook. In the first week in office, Trump signed something like 1,000 executive orders. A lot of them were overturned in the courts, but they flooded the field. And we had so much to fight back against. Some of these things did real damage before they were overturned. Now, this is probably one of the most concerning of Project 2025 because it concentrates power in the executive branch, in the president, in the dictator. That's exactly what they wanted. Project 2025 is a playbook for how to create a dictatorship, how to create an authoritarian state. Now, the concern, it risks authoritarian drift, and we have seen this. We have seen our democracy being eroded by all of the shit the Trump the regime has been throwing at us. And we've had less responsive governance. How we fight it: Congress needs to grow a pair and fight this. Pair of balls, pair of ovaries, pair of whatever you got, you need to grow them and fight this. Republicans are scared to death of Trump, but even they voted to a war power resolution to tell him to stop. Now he'll veto it, and we don't have the 2/3 majority that needs for it to pass. But that was a strong rebuke to the Trump regime. Courts. The courts have been fighting this. We have been winning more than we have not in the courts. States' rights where protective. A lot of times, these federal things that Trump is trying to do, states have rights, and he can't interfere. Like he's trying to interfere in elections. Elections by the Constitution are a state activity. It is not a federal activity. The states have the right to decide on the manner and execution of elections. Action, civics education. Big John taught a class, Know Your Rights, Change the Game. And that was on civics, how your government works. Voting rights defense, we have to get our voting rights back because they're trying to rig the whole system so that we never win again. That is what one of the overarching goals of Project 2025 is make it so that Democrats can't win. And lawsuits. Sue the motherfucker down. All right, next slide. How we fight back. So Project 2025 thrives on coordination, but so do we. That's why I teach these classes. That's why I encourage you to call, write your Congress people, vote. We want to do the following actions. Educate and mobilize. Tell others about what's going on in our government. Let them know. Host these classes. Share fact sheets with your Congress people or your friends. Door knock, for a cause you believe in. Get involved with an organization. And go phone banking, door knocking, and protest. Electorally, we can flip seats. This is the biggest one. We want to nullify Trump and the damage he has done in November of 2026. He's going to claim the election was stolen because everybody thinks a blue tsunami, not just a wave, a tsunami is coming. And we are going to take back control of the House, and we have a shot to take back control of the Senate. Only if we vote. So please vote blue. We can flip seats at every level, not just the federal government, but the state government as well. Host a voter registration drive. Get young people, get immigrants, get people to register to vote and have them vote. Their voices matter. Legal and oversight. We can support lawsuits like the ACLU has, I don't know how many hundreds of lawsuits against the Trump regime. You can do Freedom of Information Act requests and get the actual what's going on in your government documents. And the state attorneys general, like I said, are banding together and fighting against some of the worst oversights and excesses of the Trump regime. Economic and labor, we unionize, boycott, and build mutual aid cooperatives. Culturally, we want to counter their narratives of how bad trans people are, how bad immigrants are. We want to instead give narratives of inclusion and opportunity and the very real and vital place that people in marginalized groups play in our society. And then long term, we're looking at structural reforms so that if we get another Trump, we have protections in place that these things can't happen again. Voting access needs to be immortalized in the Constitution, not just through legal precedent. Campaign finance, get big money out of politics. It is destroying our democracy. And anti-corruption. Congress, police yourselves. Get rid of all these insider trading people because they're making bank over there over insider trading. They have information that nobody else gets, and they are playing the stocks with it. Congress, govern yourselves. This is our moment. Project 2025 is a blueprint, but our response is a movement. Commit to one action this week. I highly encourage you to call your representative or email your representative or senator. Use 5Calls app, download it, use it. Find an issue you feel strongly about, read the script. Call, read the script, that's all you got to do. Attend a meeting, recruit a friend, go to a protest. We are the majority that believes in democracy, opportunity for all, and a livable future. Together, we can overturn these harmful policies, protect the vulnerable, and build a United States of America where government serves all the people, not just the wealthy, not just the powerful, but all the people. The damage is real, but it's reversible through action and joyful, organized resistance. So get out there, educate others, and vote. Thank you. Now, do we have any questions?
No questions. So
I'll give it a few minutes, so if you want to type them into the chat, feel free.
Sunshine 5 did put a couple of useful links for the Immigration Action Center's red cards.
Oh, thank you. So Sunshine put links to the Immigration Network Action, the rights cards.
And Terry says thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I'm so glad you were here. All right. All right. Well, if we have no more questions, if you could go to the last slide, Dan, the loosen slide. And we are going to chant this. I like to end the class with this chant. It's very soothing to me. And I know when I get hyped up and ready to go, I want to bring myself back down, center myself. So we are going to sing this 3 times. Feel free to join in. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go, let go. Thank you, everybody. Do we have any final questions?